I echo Peter's comment. It's pretty hard to follow a gold medalist from the Olympics, but at least he brought you all in the room to listen to the rest of it. My presentation focuses mostly on the initiatives to enhance resilience that are designed and implemented by NGOs. And what I was particularly interested in doing this paper was trying to find out what are the kinds of principles that are embedded in resilience programming, what are the common themes and approaches that NGOs are using for engaging in resilience programming. And one of the things that makes it different than just doing normal development programming is that it focuses on shock dynamics. This programming also looks at resilience with multiple dimensional capacities. It tends to look at functions to prepare for and respond to kinds of disturbances, whether they be shocks or long-term stresses. It tends to be focused on improving some kind of well-being outcome, whether that be food security or nutrition, and it operates at multiple levels. Common themes that we're coming across in this we tend to see comprehensive risk analyses that NGOs are engaging in, that they tend to use integrated and holistic approaches, often multi-sector. Many of the NGOs are also engaging in regional resilience strategies to help not only determine how to allocate resources and capacities in an effective and efficient ways, but also to consider some of these cross-border, cross-country themes that are critical for resilience. They also are engaged in complementary partnerships, knowing that you need to have other stakeholders that you engage with to bring about some of the changes that are important to promote resilience. And that there is a strong effort recently to look at knowledge management within these partnerships. There's also been a very strong focus on social capital and the importance of social capital to resilience building. Now, one of the things I want to say is that building resilience from an NGO perspective, whether you're talking about households, individuals, or communities, or even higher level systems, they need to be able to deal effectively with shocks and stresses by improving three key capacities. One type of capacity we call absorptive capacity. This is normally what we think of as disaster risk reduction type programming, where we're trying to not only allow people to be able to absorb the shock, but actually recover from the shock. They also focus on adaptive capacity, which is not only livelihood investments, but climate change types of interventions, climate smart agriculture, changes that are trying to take into account longer term changes that are occurring in the environment. So it's more proactive in the way that you are selecting interventions. They also engage in transformative capacity, which is focusing on governance and the enabling conditions that are preventing people from being able to adapt effectively. In terms of measurement of resilience, NGOs collect information on well-being measures at both baseline and endline of their projects. Some of them collect a lot of information on disturbances, but this is usually kind of retrospective. But few collect information on all of these different types of capacities. The dominant scale of measurement for NGOs tends to be at household or community level, rarely at this higher systems level. So there are a number of challenges that NGOs are facing when trying to do programming in resilience. One is that because they tend to operate at a smaller scale, trying to engage in these larger transformative changes at national or even regional level is more difficult. And so the only way that they can actually accomplish that in an effective way is through these coalitions with other partners. Funding mechanisms have constrained NGOs to be able to do longer-term programming. They tend to get a lot of short-term projects, and that makes it very difficult to engage in the long term, which is what we know is important for resilience. Competition between NGOs is also a problem. When you have, the only way that resilience really works is when people work together for solutions, but if you're actually competing for grants with other NGOs, it makes it difficult for you to share good ideas, good practice that you actually have. Also, some top-down approaches that are being used by donors constrain what kinds of project design you can actually engage in. So you're more limited on being more flexible in your programming and being able to actually do something different. Also, the way that funding tends to occur, they separate out humanitarian assistance from development assistance. That could be separated out geographically. It's also separated out within donors for funding, and so that makes it difficult if you wanted to bring these two together to work in the same areas. Okay, given those constraints, there are a lot of opportunities. One is that there are starting to be more flexible funding mechanisms by different donors, where they're actually engaging with the NGOs to actually do good problem analysis and good theories of change for determining what are the leverage points that you need to focus on to bring about higher resilience. There are new multi-agency partnerships that have been created that not only bring together NGOs, but with the UN, government, and other private sector, so that they're working together on solutions at a regional level. There are a number of learning and knowledge management consortia that have been created recently, so that there is more sharing to try to break down some of those barriers that the competition has created. Finally, there's great work that's going on integrating gender issues into resilience programming. And I think this is, having reviewed resilience work for the last 3 or 4 years, I think this is really an important area that we have missed. So in recommendations, I'd like to say, first of all, we need to have better risk-informed program design. One of the big things that I was talking to a friend of mine that's one of the donors, and he was telling me that people do a pretty good job on multi-risk analysis, but they don't do a very good job of translating that into a good problem analysis and into a theory of change that then drives the way that you actually can set up your M&E systems. So we need to invest more in M&E capacity as well, because one of the problems that a lot of NGOs have is they don't take into account how costly some of this M&E is if you really are trying to gather the evidence that you need to generate to show that you are making a difference. We need to implement longer-term integrated approaches, longer-term commitment to a particular area. And that means that we need to think through kind of strategically how we can layer and link different project activities into a program approach. We need to have strategic collaboration at these multiple levels to actually allow for this transformative capacity at these higher levels. And a lot of these regional strategies that are being developed by different groups have actually helped us to align resources, have helped us to determine what are key capacities that we need to have in place, allow us to address these cross-country themes, and actually allows us to do better systems thinking in our resilience design. Thank you.